Across the sweeping plains of the Masai Mara, beneath the blazing sun and the restless roar of the wind, one creature stands as the very symbol of strength, majesty, and raw power, the lion, the undisputed ruler of the African savannah. Yet even among kings, one name rises above the rest, a name spoken with reverence and awe. Noch the patriarch, the warrior, the founder of a bloodline that forever altered the fate of this wild kingdom. His sons, the famed sons of Noch, forged an alliance stronger than steel, a brotherhood bound by loyalty and dominance. Together, they claimed territories, toppled rivals, and stretched their reign across vast, sun-scorched grasslands. Their unity, their might, and their relentless courage made them one of the most formidable coalitions Africa has ever witnessed. And today, with every roar that rolls across the nighttime sky, the legacy of their dynasty still echoes through the tall grass of the Masai Mara, a saga of family, power, and survival carved into the heart of Africa's untamed wilderness. Alongside his 5 sons, Noch II, Long, Ron, Caesar, and Grimace Noch ruled not only vast stretches of land, but also reshaped the very meaning of strength, family bonds, and survival in the wild. Beginning in 2004, after he and Nightmale overthrew the dominant males of the Marsh Pride, Noch rose to the height of his power. The Marsh females, one of the largest and most iconic prides in the Masai Mara, became the core of this new coalition. Following Lilo's death, Noch made a choice that defied the instincts typical of his species. He stayed. Rather than leaving to start a new life elsewhere, he remained with the pride and took on the unusual role of raising and safeguarding his male cubs. In the wild, males are normally expelled once they mature to prevent inbreeding. But Noch broke that rule. He kept his sons close, training them to hunt, defend themselves, and uphold their territory. From an early age, the young lions learned simply by watching him confronting intruders, sharing kills, and patrolling the lands they called home. What truly set Noch's coalition apart wasn't size or brute force, but the unshakable bond that held them together: blood. Unlike most male alliances, usually made up of unrelated males that cooperate only temporarily, Notch's sons grew up at his side. Where other coalitions last only a few years before splitting, Notch chose to keep his own lineage united and prepare them for leadership. This was an extraordinary deviation from the genetic pattern of the species, where roughly 95% of male coalitions consist of unrelated lions precisely to avoid inbreeding. But these males were more than allies, they were a family. In every hunt, every patrol, every confrontation, they moved with flawless coordination, protecting one another like a living chain of blood coursing across the plains. By 2008, their alliance was fully established. Notch and his now adult sons pushed their borders far beyond the marsh territory into Olombo, Serena, and later Mugoro. These were fertile but dangerous lands, frequented by wandering male coalitions. Their success wasn't just due to strength, but to their unmatched unity and strategic cooperation. They were not simply a group of males banded together for convenience. They moved like a trained formation. They guarded the flanks, divided roles, supported each other, and intervened whenever one was in danger. Their buffalo hunts and clashes with rival males revealed a level of coordination rarely seen among lions. In 2011, their dominance was challenged when a group of ambitious young males, later known as the Sand River Males, invaded southern Mugoro. Bold, powerful, and hungry for their first territory, they clashed head-on with Notch's coalition in what would become one of the fiercest battles ever witnessed in the Masai Mara. The sky grew heavy as a storm gathered on the western horizon. The thick, charged air felt as if the entire savannah was holding its breath. Antelope herds withdrew from the plains, and an eerie stillness settled over the land. Then, a deep roar shattered the silence. The battle had begun. Wind whipped through the tall grass as thunderheads thickened overhead. Ron surged forward. Caesar tightened the formation, and Long sealed the escape route. Claws flashed, teeth struck, and bodies fell beneath the pounding rain. In a blur of violence and thunder, the clash raged. And when the storm calmed, only a few fled into the darkness. And the lion, who remained standing, became legend. Notch did not roar. He stood motionless, composed, carrying the dignity of one who had met fate head-on. Amid fallen bodies and rolling thunder, a solemn quiet returned. No lion can outrun time. After 2013, the once mighty coalition began to fade. Mike Don vanished first, his fate unknown, though many believe he fell in battle. Grimace was ambushed near the Talek River by an unidentified coalition. Ron, the courageous warrior, was killed in 2016 by young challengers from the West. Caesar followed weeks later, weakened by severe injuries. Notch, now elderly, had only Notch 2 remaining at his side. His strength waned. In 2013, he was found resting beneath an acacia tree, eyes closed, his once dark mane streaked by age. The last king had stepped down from his throne. Notch 2 did not remain alone for long. He joined forces with his son Spivey, and together they formed the group known as the Local Pride. From their bloodline came a new generation Caesar II, Ranu, Blue Eyes, and Dombo, powerful descendants who would rise to dominate 4 major prides across the Masai Mara. Notch's legacy is not measured only in territory, but in the dynasty he built, raising his sons himself, forging a coalition bound by blood, and passing on his resilience through generations. He became a rare symbol of fatherhood, leadership, and lineage in the wild. And on dry nights, when the wind whispers through the grass and the insects fall silent, a distant, resonant roar may echo across the plains. Some say it is a sign that Notch's spirit still watches over the Mara. The tale of Notch and his coalition is more than a chronicle of dominance. It is living proof that even in the harshest landscapes, family bonds and the devotion between father and son can become the strongest tools for survival. In the wild, thrones are not made of gold. They are carved with claws, with sacrifice, and with the footprints left on the red earth of the Mara. As dawn brushed the Masai Mara with shades of gold, a thunderous roar shattered the early stillness. It belonged to Natch, the uncrowned monarch of the plains, the legendary patriarch whose bloodline would one day produce wild icons like Scarface, Marani, Sikio, and Hunter. Natch was more than a lion. He was the emblem of an entire era, a warrior shaped by dust storms, sharpened by hardship, and defined by survival. His legacy became the foundation of a dynasty that ruled the Kenyan grasslands for over a decade. No one knows exactly when his story began. Early sightings describe him as a lone young male wandering the Mara Triangle, constantly pushed aside by stronger coalitions. But the unforgiving wilderness forged him into a leader of remarkable resilience. Unlike most males who join temporary alliances to endure the challenges of the savannah, Natch did something exceptional. He built a coalition with his own sons, an extremely rare strategy in the wild. Together with his 5 descendants Scarface, Marani, Hunter, Sikio, and Njor, he created one of the most formidable lion coalitions ever documented in the Masai Mara. Their influence stretched across vast territories, including the renowned Marsh Pride, one of the most famous groups in wildlife filmmaking. His rule endured for more than 10 years, an almost impossible achievement in a world where dominance often lasts only a few fleeting seasons. One of Natch's most unforgettable battles unfolded along the southern border of the Mara, when a trio of young males from Talek attempted to push into his domain. Despite his age, Natch was the first to confront the threat. With 2 of his sons at his side, he clashed with the intruders in a brutal struggle that raged for hours beneath the relentless sun. Dust spiraled into the air as the tall grass writhed in the wind. Blood darkened his thick mane, creating a sight both awe-inspiring and heartbreaking. It was more than a fight for territory. It was the final great test of a lion who had weathered countless migrations, seasons, and wars. With the precision of a seasoned fighter, Natch brought down one of the intruders with a decisive bite. Realizing they were outmatched, the remaining 2 males retreated into the woodland for safety. That moment was more than a display of raw force. It revealed the heart of the wild struggle, dignity, and legacy. Natch did not fight for dominance alone. He fought for something deeper, the right to defend his lineage, his territory, and the legacy he had built. It wasn't just a triumph, it was a quiet proclamation, a reminder that true strength cannot be seized when it is forged through time, wisdom, and loyalty to one's bloodline. Even in his later years, Natch embodied the essence of leadership. He not only held onto his range, but preserved a natural order shaped by experience and inherited strength. That battle demonstrated a timeless truth in nature. It is not always sheer power that prevails, but endurance and character. Natch was a strategist by instinct. In his final years, he rarely entered direct combat. His sons carried out the fights in his stead. He ruled from the background, relying on scent, presence, and the resonance of his roar as an invisible shield against rivals. Unlike many males who are driven out or even killed by their own offspring, Natch kept his place until the very end. His sons respected, protected, and honored him. With his massive frame, thick mane streaked with gold and bronze, powerful jaws, and eyes marked by years of experience, Natch inspired respect without raising his voice. Age slowed him, but his courage remained, especially when guarding his pride against threats. It is believed he fathered dozens of cubs across multiple prides, not only within the Marsh Pride, but also among groups in the Moran North and Talek regions. His genetic imprint still lives on in many lions that roam today's Mara Plains. As time passed, Natch withdrew from conflict and spent his final years resting in the shade of the acacia trees. He no longer followed the lionesses on hunts. His steps became slower, though still steady. Observers often found him lying beside the Talek River, eyes half closed, as though revisiting the memories of his greatest days. In the end, his story drew to a natural and fitting close. He passed away quietly. Without a final battle or dramatic roar, leaving the world as only a true king of the Savannah would. The legacy of Natch cannot simply be measured by the number of cubs he sired or the territories he ruled. His impact ran far deeper. He was the progenitor of Scarface's lineage, the spark of generations of lions that would dominate the Masai Mara for years, a living embodiment of hereditary royalty in the wild. Even today, many lions roaming the Masai Mara carry the genes of Natch, whether directly or through distant descendants. But beyond genetics, his true legacy endures in the memories of wildlife enthusiasts, photographers, and filmmakers who still honor him as the emblem of a golden era when lions ruled not only the land, but also the hearts of all who watched them. As dawn slowly spilled its golden light across the Mara plains, mist lifting over the grazing antelopes, a deep, resonant roar shattered the quiet. There was no mistaking it. The roar of Scarface, the scarred lion, the indomitable monarch of Kenya's Savannah. In the heart of this wilderness, where life and death intertwine every moment, Scarface emerged as an eternal symbol. Born in 2007, Scarface was a direct son of Natch, the legendary founder of the Mara dynasty. Alongside his brothers, Marani, Sikio, Hunter, and Natch Jr., he was part of the formidable Natch Alliance, one of the most cohesive and feared male lion coalitions ever recorded in the Masai Mara. Unlike other temporary male coalitions formed by unrelated lions, Natch's alliance was true family father and sons fighting side by side, patrolling their territory, guarding the lionesses, and passing their legacy from one generation to the next. When Natch grew old and stepped back from leadership, Scarface and 3 of his brothers ascended the throne. They claimed vast territories, including the famous Marsh Pride, the most iconic pride in wildlife documentary history. But Scarface's rise was not inherited. It was earned. Like all lions, he began life facing the harsh realities of survival. Yet, together with his brothers, he quickly demonstrated a remarkable blend of intelligence, instinct, and strength. One dry afternoon in 2012, under a sky painted crimson, a coalition of rival lions crossed into their territory, intent on challenging their rule. The tension in the air was palpable. Then Scarface's roar exploded like thunder across the plains. The dust rose as claws tore through the grass. Bodies collided in a fierce dance of strength and fury. In the chaos of battle, a swipe from an enemy struck Scarface's face, ripping away his right eye. Blood ran down his cheek, yet the lion did not flinch. With a roar that echoed across the Mara, Scarface launched a ferocious counterattack. One invader fell, and the others fled into the horizon. That wound, the scar crossing his eye and face, became his eternal mark, a testament to his courage and indomitable spirit. From that day on, Scarface was more than a lion. He became a living legend, a survivor who defied death and embodied the raw majesty of the Masai Mara. For nearly a decade, Scarface and his alliance ruled over an area spanning nearly 400 square kilometers, a territory rarely matched in the wild lion world. Under the leadership of this formidable quartet, the Marsh Pride experienced a period of stability and prosperity. The Mara ecosystem seemed to respond to their presence, achieving a delicate balance, as if nature itself acknowledged their reign. Scarface was not just a warrior, he was the guardian of the pride, the tireless protector of lionesses, and the father of generations of cubs who would carry his lineage across the savannah. His thick, dark mane, deliberate stride, and piercing gaze commanded respect. A single move, a simple roar, was enough to make any rival hesitate. His descendants inherited a remarkable genetic legacy: strength, resilience, adaptability, and balance. To conservationists, Scarface represented a living treasure, a bridge between the Mara's past glory and the future of its lions. Yet time spares no king. By 2020, Scarface had grown thin, moved slowly, and was nearly blind in one eye. His body, marked with both old and recent scars, was a living map of every battle he had fought. He roamed little, spending long hours under the shade of acacias, gazing over the plains as if reliving the days when his roar shook the earth. The alliance had long since dissolved, but Scarface endured alone, faithful to his unyielding spirit. He was never dethroned. He simply retired with the dignity of a great warrior. Even in his old age, his presence carried weight across the savannah. Young lions crossing his path sensed the aura of a legend and kept their distance not out of fear of his strength, but because they recognized greatness that once was. On June 11th, 2021, Scarface passed away peacefully. No wounds, no enemies, no final roar. He simply walked across the plains that once marked his kingdom, fading into the distant horizon of the Masai Mara. A tragic ending was unnecessary. His life alone had cemented him as a legend. Scarface left more than offspring. He left an eternal legacy etched in photographs and footage images captured under the blazing African sun. Documentaries that still stir the hearts of those who witness his roar on screen. He is a living testament to the wild beauty, courage, and unwavering will to live and die according to the rules of nature. Above all, Scarface serves as a powerful reminder of humanity's responsibility toward the wild. Every creature, even a lion scarred by time, carries a fragment of the planet's history. Dawn rises again over the Masai Mara. Gentle winds ripple through the tall grasses. Antelope herds traverse the vast plains. On a distant mound, a young lion stands, gazing toward the horizon as if searching for the shadow of a king long gone. Scarface may be gone, but his spirit endures. One chapter has closed, yet the story of the Savannah marches on. As long as the sun rises over the Mara, there will always be another roar echoing through the tall grass, another heir ready to carry forward the mission Scarface left behind. As the first rays of the sun pierced the parched earth of the African wilderness, an ancient law came into play once again. In the world of lions, every male must eventually leave. Upon reaching maturity, young males are driven from their pride no longer protected by their mother, no longer tolerated by their father. They embark on a solitary journey of survival, a path defined by blood, roar, and sharpened claws. Yet in 2006, within South Africa's Sabi Sands Reserve, something extraordinary occurred. 6 male lions with no blood ties and no shared lineage chose to remain together. Their names would be etched into history: Makulu, Rasta, Scar, Pretty Boy, Kinky Tail, and Mr. T. Six untamable warriors formed an unprecedented alliance, remarkable not only for its size, but for its sheer power. What bound them remains a mystery: hunger, necessity, or pure instinct. Day by day, they grew quietly, without unnecessary displays of strength. But every leap, every glance, every stride became firmer than the last. Soon, the entire reserve began to tremble at their presence. These lions hunted, patrolled, and fought as though they shared a single mind. Solitary hunters had transformed into a force impossible to ignore. Thus, a legend was born: 6 males who abandoned individual pride to forge something far greater: an alliance, an empire, a nightmare for any who crossed their path. Unknown to the world at the time, observers were witnessing the birth of the most powerful coalition the wild has ever seen. The Mapogo were no longer aimless wanderers. They had a singular purpose: to claim a kingdom. Each adult lion, strong enough to dominate his own territory, now moved together, silent yet unstoppable. Their first conquest belonged to 2 aging males, guardians of the largest pride of lionesses in eastern Sabi Sands. No Within minutes, the Mapogo toppled the old dynasty. Their assault was swift, brutal, and decisive. From that moment, they were no longer exiles, they became conquerors. In under 3 months, the Mapogo coalition had seized more than 4 contiguous territories, stretching from the Sabi Sands plains to the banks of the Sand River. No lion dared cross the borders they had drawn. Makulu, the eldest and wisest, became the silent leader. Scar and Pretty Boy moved like a flawless pair in battle. Kinky Tail and Mr. T spearheaded most raids. Rasta, discreet but lethal, appeared precisely when needed to crush resistance. Instead of dividing their prey, they divided their battlefronts. While some defended, others attacked the next territory. It was no longer instinct alone. It was pure strategy. Biologists had never seen anything like it. Male lions often fight to the death for dominance, yet the Mapogo shared their power. There was no rivalry among them. Each lion understood his role, and none sought dominance over the others. Survivors of their attacks began calling them the Six-Headed Black Storm. Their reign did more than shift the balance among males, it decimated the lioness prides. With every invasion, cubs were slaughtered. The Mapogo tolerated no outsiders. Only their bloodline was meant to survive. They never paused. Every step sent a clear message: this land belongs to us. And if it does not yet, soon it will. What began as a coalition had grown into an empire forged with claws, cunning, and terror that seeped into every blade of grass across the savannah. In the lion world, a male rarely keeps control of his territory for more than 2 years, but the Mapogo defied all rules. Six lions, each with their own lethal instinct, became an unstoppable force. From 2006 to 2012, they not only extended their control over the Savannah, but annihilated rival coalitions, dismantling at least 8 other male alliances. Their domain spanned over 170,000 hectares, nearly 1,700 square kilometers larger than the city of Los Angeles. At the heart of it all was Makulu, the eldest and wisest, observing every move with the calm confidence of a ruler. Scar and Pretty Boy, inseparable, patrolled as one synchronized unit. Mr. T, with his thick mane and fiery temperament, led the hunts. Beside him, Kinky Tail, with his signature curled tail, served as his right-hand lion. Rasta, the quietest of all, struck with lightning precision whenever needed. During their peak years, the prides under their command produced dozens of cubs. Many of the lions roaming Sabi Sands today carry the Mapogo lineage. Their genetic influence was so profound that scientists feared potential inbreeding across the region. No male coalition had ever left such a lasting imprint on the natural world. The roar of the Mapogo was more than a territorial warning. It was a proclamation of order. At its sound, antelopes, zebras, and even hyenas changed course. Their presence carried an invisible gravity none dared approach, yet none could ignore them. When the Mapogo hunted, stealth was unnecessary. Confidence came from knowing the prey had no escape. Their success depended not on speed, but on strategy, positioning, and the synchronized rhythm of the group. Every lion played his part flawlessly. Remarkably, during their peak, there is no record of conflict among them. Six adult lions sharing territory, power, and mating rights without betrayal or competition, an unprecedented phenomenon in the animal kingdom. Yet even the greatest empires must face shadows, for when a dynasty reaches its pinnacle, darkness quietly begins to encroach. At the edges of their empire, young and hungry eyes watched every move. Every glorious dynasty carries within it the seeds of its own fall. In the wild, the end does not arrive with a roar, it arrives silently, a warning of the storm to come. From the outside, the Mapogo appeared invincible. 6 males united, an unmatched force, roaring each night and shaking the savannah. But within their vast realm, the balance began to crack. 6 individuals, 6 temperaments, 6 distinct ways of hunting and ruling. To maintain dominance over nearly 1,700 square kilometers, they were forced to patrol separately. And when the Mapogo stopped moving together as often, fissures emerged at the borders, in trust, and in the very bond that had made them unstoppable. Mr. T and Kinky Tail, the most aggressive and combative, were tasked with guarding the northern sector, where 3 emerging coalitions converged. Among them was a group of 4 young lions, still unnamed, later dubbed the Salati by observers due to their frequent presence near the river of the same name. Half the age of the Mapogo, they were swifter, less scarred, and above all, untested by defeat. Unlike the Mapogo, who asserted dominance with brute force, the Salati were patient. For weeks, they studied patrol routes, roars, and movements. Then, one foggy morning in June, they struck. Kinky Tail was patrolling alone, perhaps confident, perhaps assuming his brothers were nearby. He did not sense danger until the 4 young lions surrounded him. The fight was brutal, lasting over 15 minutes, far longer than any other encounter. Despite his injuries, Kinky Tail bit one of his attackers on the neck, felling him, but exhaustion overtook him. He collapsed on the grass, eyes wide open, refusing to accept the end. Mr. T arrived shortly after, too late to save Kinky Tail, but just in time to witness the earth scarred by his brother's final struggle. Kinky Tail's death was more than a loss. It was a fracture in the soul of the Mapogo. The 6-member coalition was now reduced to 5, but in the Mapogo, each lion was indispensable. From that moment, Scar began withdrawing from conflicts. He stopped hunting with the group, vanishing for weeks, roaming distant territories like a phantom. Makulu, now over 10 years old, moved more slowly. Age was taking its toll. Rasta continued to fight, though with a strange, almost resigned calm. Mr. T, consumed by grief, became unpredictable. His rage even led him to attack a lioness from his own pride. The Mapogo's roar still echoed across the savannah, but it was no longer a song of conquest. It had turned melancholic, a lament for an empire slowly crumbling. Their territory remained, yet the spirit of the Mapogo was broken, like a hollow tree that falls with a mere breeze. An empire in decline does not collapse all at once. Some lions remain standing, fighting not for glory or power, but because fighting is all they know. After Kinky Tail's death, the alliance did not vanish immediately, yet something deep inside had shattered. It was like a symphony continuing without its lead melody. The music played, but every note felt out of harmony. Rasta, the quietest of the group, became a spectral guardian. He no longer traveled with the pride, he patrolled alone, striking any shadow that crossed his path, silently, without warning. Scar, the eldest, wisest, and most feared, had also become a ghost. For weeks, observers recorded no sign of him. When he finally reappeared, his mane was torn, ribs visible beneath his skin, and in his eyes lingered only the empty reflection of the past. Mr. T and Pretty Boy clung to what remained, never apart. The two survivors faced the storm of a world that no longer belonged to them. They still marked their territory each day, though the roars were shorter, the rests longer, and every step carried the weight of memory. Fate struck again. Mr. T fell in an uneven battle, alone against three young males who dared challenge the remnants of the Mapogo Empire. No one knows exactly what happened, but the tracks in the earth tell the story. He never retreated and died fighting. His warrior's roar faded across the savannah, leaving the Mapogo reduced to 3. As for Scar, some say he perished. Others claim he still prowls the southern reaches of Sabi Sands. On certain nights, a solitary, raspy roar can be heard, resonating like a spirit still guarding something sacred. Mr. T arrived shortly after, too late to save Kinky Tail, but just in time to witness the earth scarred by his brother's final struggle. Kinky Tail's death was more than a loss. It was a fracture in the soul of the Mapogo.